I watched Muslims stomp on the cross during communion, and I couldn't believe what happened next. Could this moment change everything I thought I knew about God? My name is Samir, and I am 32. I grew up in Amman, Jordan, in a home filled with the sounds of prayer calls echoing from the mosque towers and the smell of fresh cardamom coffee brewing in the morning. My father was strict, a man whose eyes could stop you in your tracks. And my mother always made sure I memorized every verse I was supposed to know. I never questioned my faith, never doubted Allah, and I believed I was walking the only right path. I had traveled to many countries for my work as an engineer, but nothing felt as strange as stepping into Vatican City for the first time. The streets were narrow, cobbled, and alive with the chatter of tourists speaking in languages I could barely recognize. I could hear the distant bells of St. Peter's Basilica ringing over the city, calling people to Mass, and I felt a mixture of awe and curiosity. The first time I entered the basilica, I was stunned. The ceiling stretched higher than I thought possible, painted with images of angels and saints that seemed to float in golden light. The smell of incense was heavy, clinging to my clothes and hair. I felt both small and very alert, like a bird stepping into a new forest. My heart raced as I walked down the long, polished marble aisles. I found a place to sit near the back, just watching. People were kneeling, standing, crossing themselves, whispering prayers. The choir sang a hymn that echoed in the giant hall, soft at first and then louder, filling every corner. But I had never heard anything like it. I felt drawn in, but also cautious. I reminded myself that I was a Muslim, and this was not my place. Then it happened. During communion, a group of Muslims, men I recognized from the conference, stepped up to the altar. I watched, frozen, as they stomped on the cross in front of the priest. My chest tightened and my hands curled into fists. How could they do this in a holy place? I felt a fire in my veins, a mix of anger, fear, and the need to defend what I believed was sacred. After the service, I followed them into a side chapel. The air was cooler here, dimmer, and smelled of wax and faint incense. My heart pounded. I felt I had to confront them, to protect my faith, to make sure Allah's name was not dishonored in this place. But as I stepped closer to the cross on the wall, I noticed something strange, a warmth that seemed to come from nowhere, soft like sunlight on my skin. My foot itched to stomp, my anger surged, yet my body froze. A voice, gentle but clear, whispered in my mind, "You are seeking righteousness, but you do not know me." I staggered back, unsure if I had imagined it. My heart raced. My faith had always given me confidence. And yet now I felt uncertainty and fear, like the ground beneath me had disappeared. I wanted to run, to shake off the feeling, but part of me wanted to stay, to listen, to understand. For hours I sat in that chapel, staring at the cross, my mind spinning. The sunlight shifted, the shadows of the statues grew long, and I could hear my own breathing echoing in the quiet. My anger faded, replaced with confusion. What did the voice mean? Was this punishment, or was it a warning? Something inside me whispered that this moment was not random, that something much bigger was at work, something I could not yet understand. I left the basilica with my mind in turmoil. The streets of Vatican City felt different now, alive, heavy, and full of secrets. I could see families walking together, tourists taking photos, priests hurrying past, but all I could think about was the warmth, the voice, and the cross. My entire life, my beliefs, my certainty felt fragile. Could it be that I had been looking in the wrong place for truth my whole life? As I walked back to my hotel, I could not shake the question. If God was real, why had I never felt Him before in all my prayers? The next morning, I woke to the sound of church bells ringing far below my hotel window. The sunlight poured in, warm but not enough to chase the heaviness of my chest. I felt restless, my thoughts still tangled in the strange events from the basilica. My hands trembled slightly as I sipped bitter coffee, staring out at the streets of Vatican City. Tourists moved slowly like ants below, but I felt like I was in a different world, one that wasn't just cobblestones and tourists, but a place where something unseen waited. I wandered back towards St. Peter's, not sure why. My feet carried me as if they had a mind of their own. I passed vendors selling rosaries, holy cards, and candles. The smell of melted wax and fried bread from a nearby cafe mixed in the air. I kept thinking of the warmth I felt near the cross, of the whisper in my mind. I tried to shake it off, but it would not go away. It was like a spark, small but persistent, whispering that I was meant to see more, to understand more. Inside the basilica, the morning light cut through stained glass windows, painting the floor with streaks of red, blue, and gold. I felt small again, swallowed by the tall columns and the echo of my own footsteps. The air smelled of incense and dust. I walked slowly, noticing details I had ignored the day before. The fine carving on the altar, the tiny faces painted in the frescoes, the way the candle flames flickered in the dim corners. Each detail seemed alive, as if the church itself was breathing. I found a priest kneeling near the chapel where I had first felt the warmth. His robes were deep red, and his hands clasped tightly in prayer. Then something drew me closer, though my heart pounded with hesitation. He looked up suddenly and smiled, a gentle smile that reached his eyes. "You've come back," he said. His voice was calm, not accusing, not judging, just steady. I didn't know why, but I nodded. My throat felt tight. I felt something yesterday," I said. "Something I don't understand." He gestured for me to sit on a wooden bench nearby. "Sometimes God speaks in ways we do not expect," he said. "Sometimes it is not loud. Sometimes it is warmth, a voice, a feeling that shakes us to the core." I swallowed, feeling a lump in my throat. I wanted to argue, to tell him I had been a faithful Muslim all my life, but a part of me, a part I had not known existed, wanted to listen, to understand. "I've never felt Him before," I admitted. "I've prayed, I've fasted, I've done everything I was told, but this felt real." He nodded slowly. "Perhaps you are ready to see that faith is not only in what you do, but in what you believe, in your heart, in the way you are willing to open yourself." We walked through the basilica together, and I noticed the tiny details that made the building seem alive. The sound of my own footsteps echoed differently near the marble, the faint smell of incense clinging to my clothes. I realized I was noticing things I had never seen before. The care in every sculpture, the reverence in every gesture of the people around me. I felt like I was waking from a dream I had not known I was in. As we approached a small chapel, he stopped and pointed to a painting of Jesus on the cross. The figure's eyes seemed to follow me, gentle yet piercing. I felt a shiver run down my spine. "He sees everything," the priest said softly. "He knows your heart, even when you do not." I looked down at my hands, the same hands that had clenched in anger yesterday. They felt small, weak, unsure. For the first time I questioned my certainty. Had I been blind? Had my devotion to rituals and rules kept me from seeing something greater? My chest tightened as I considered the possibility. The priest knelt again and motioned for me to do the same. Hesitating, I lowered myself to the cool marble floor, my knees pressed against the stone, and the chill traveled up my legs. I closed my eyes, feeling the echo of yesterday's warmth, the whisper, and something else, a pull towards something I could not name. I had never prayed like this before, never silently begged for understanding. My heart was racing and tears threatened, though I refused to let them fall. A sudden calm settled over me, as if the building itself held its breath. The warmth returned, stronger this time, moving from my chest outward. My mind raced with questions and doubt, but there was a quiet peace threading through it all. I realized I wanted to know more, to experience this fully, to understand who Jesus was. When I opened my eyes, the priest was still watching me with that calm smile. "Do not be afraid of what you feel," he said. God often begins with a single step, a single moment that shakes everything we thought we knew. The rest will follow if you are willing to walk. I nodded slowly, feeling a strange mix of fear and hope. The basilica seemed larger now, not intimidating but welcoming. Shadows of the statues stretched across the floor, long and soft, and the air felt alive. I knew this was only the beginning, that whatever had touched me yesterday and today was not finished. As I left the chapel, I caught a glimpse of the cross where the Muslims had stomped, but now it seemed different. It was no longer just wood or symbol. It was a presence, quiet and commanding. I could not explain it. I could not ignore it. And I found myself asking, with a trembling heart, could this be the truth I had been searching for my whole life? I woke that morning with a strange lightness in my chest, as if the heaviness of yesterday had loosened its grip. My name is Karim, and I am 28. My hands shook slightly as I dressed, but this time not from fear. It was anticipation. I could still feel the warmth of the basilica lingering like sunlight trapped beneath my skin, pulsing quietly. I didn't know why I was drawn back again, but something inside whispered that today would change everything. The streets of Vatican City were busier than the day before. The cobblestones glistened with the morning dew, and the air carried a faint mix of roasted coffee, fresh bread, and the distant smell of incense. I walked quickly, my heart pounding, trying to shake the sense of urgency I felt. Each step seemed to echo louder than it should, as if the city itself was listening. Children ran past, laughing, their voices high and clear. Birds flitted overhead, their wings slicing the air with precision. I wanted to reach the basilica before it was too late, not before I could second-guess the feelings pressing against my chest. Inside, the basilica swallowed me whole. Light poured through the stained glass, turning the floor into a mosaic of red, blue, and gold. I moved slowly, aware of the echo of my own steps. Every surface seemed sharper today. The marble cool beneath my palms, the carved stone edges precise and delicate. The smell of incense was stronger, clinging to my clothes and hair. I found the priest again, kneeling near the same chapel. Though he looked up, and for a moment I felt naked under his gaze. "You've returned," he said softly. "Do you feel ready to see?" I nodded, unable to speak. My throat was tight, but my heart wanted to speak 1,000 words. I followed him through narrow corridors and side chapels, each more ornate than the last. Golden mosaics reflected light that seemed alive. shadows bending and twisting with the movement of the day. I noticed things I had never seen before. The way a candle flickered just as a shadow passed, the fine lines on a painted saint's face, the slight curve of a marble angel's finger. Each detail felt purposeful, deliberate, as if the entire basilica had been built to hold me, to teach me. He stopped in front of a small altar tucked into a corner. On it lay a simple wooden cross, untouched by gold or paint, worn smooth by centuries of hands touching it in prayer. "This is where you will begin," he said, "not with words, but with understanding." I stared at it, hesitant. My fingers itched to reach out, to touch, but doubt held me back. For my whole life, I had followed rules and rituals, believed in a God I could not see. Now I was being asked to trust something I could feel but not yet understand. My chest ached with longing and fear. Slowly, almost painfully, I knelt. The marble was cold against my knees, but my heart burned with warmth. I closed my eyes, and for the first time in my life, I prayed without words. I thought only of the warmth, the whisper, the quiet pull that had haunted me since the day before. And then, suddenly, a rush of light seemed to pour over me, pressing gently against my chest, wrapping around my shoulders. I gasped and opened my eyes. The priest was watching, but he did not speak. He let me be. I realized the light wasn't just around me. It was inside me. It moved, alive, or filling every corner of my body with a calm I had never known. Tears came then, hot and unbidden, rolling down my cheeks. I had never cried in prayer before, never felt such raw exposure. It was as if everything I had believed in, everything I had doubted, everything I had feared was being sifted through and purified. The warmth was Jesus, I realized, though I had never admitted his name to my own heart. Every fear, every anger, every question I had carried since childhood, every rule I had obeyed was melting in that light. I looked at the priest, my voice trembling. I feel him. I don't understand it, but I feel him. He smiled, a deep, gentle smile that seemed to echo through the chapel. "You are beginning to understand," he said. "It is not about what you know. It is about what you open your heart to. Jesus is here. He sees you. He waits for you to follow." I wanted to argue, to question, but the words stuck in my throat. Instead, I knelt longer, letting the warmth fill me, let it wash through me. I remembered yesterday, the anger I had felt, the confusion, the pride that had blinded me. All of it was gone, replaced by this quiet certainty. I didn't know what it meant for my future, but I knew one thing. I could not turn away now. When I finally stood, I felt taller, stronger, yet strangely gentle. The basilica no longer felt overwhelming. The shadows were soft, the light forgiving. I walked toward the main altar, my steps steady, my breath calm. People around me moved, oblivious, but I felt seen, held in a way that transcended all human understanding. The priest motioned for me to join the congregation for communion. My stomach tightened, not with fear, but with awe. I had never been part of this, never imagined I would be. Yet now every step toward the altar felt like the right one. The cross at the front of the church, which had been defaced, now seemed alive, glowing with a quiet light. I realized I had seen it with new eyes. When I knelt to receive the bread, I felt a surge of clarity. The warmth in my chest flared, and I heard a voice, not with my ears, but with my heart. It said my name. It whispered, "You are mine." I blinked, my hands trembling, my knees weak. Everything I had believed in, everything I had clung to, was no longer enough. I wanted this. I wanted him. As I left the basilica, the streets of Vatican City felt different. The light was sharper, the air sweeter, the sounds more vivid. I had not only witnessed something miraculous, I had been touched by it. And yet, a question pressed in on me, deeper than the warmth or the light. Could I truly leave my past behind and embrace this new life fully, without fear, without hesitation? I woke before dawn, my chest tight with a mixture of fear and anticipation. The streets outside were quiet, cobblestones slick with the night's lingering mist. My name is Karim, and I am 28. Cause the city felt different now, smaller, sharper, alive in a way I could not yet explain. I wrapped my coat tightly around my shoulders, the chill biting at my skin, and walked toward the basilica. Each step echoed like a drumbeat, a reminder that I could not turn back. Inside, the basilica was empty, but for the candles flickering in their holders, casting long shadows that danced across the marble floors. I moved carefully, aware of every sound, every shift of air. The warmth I had felt yesterday was gone, replaced by a tension that settled deep in my bones. I knelt before the same small altar I had found in Act 3, hands pressed against the cold marble. I closed my eyes and prayed, but the words felt heavy, unfamiliar. Doubts crept in like cold fingers. Was this real? Was the feeling inside me genuine, or just my imagination? The priest appeared silently beside me, his presence calm, yet commanding. "You are ready," he said, though his voice held an edge I had not noticed before. But understanding comes at a price. I followed him through the labyrinthine corridors, past chambers I had never seen. The air grew warmer, the scent of incense stronger, almost cloying. My steps faltered when we reached a chapel at the far end. It was dimly lit, the walls lined with intricate carvings of angels and saints. In the center, a cross stood larger than any I had seen, but it was cracked, scarred, and worn as if it had endured centuries of pain. My heart clenched. This cross seemed to mirror the turmoil inside me. "You must confront what you fear most," the priest said, "not outside, but within." I swallowed hard. Fear, shame, anger, all the emotions I had tried to bury rushed back. Memories of my old life flooded me. The arguments with my family over faith, the nights spent questioning, the anger I had felt toward Christians before this journey. I had stomped on crosses in my youth. I defied what I could not understand, and now I stood here, trembling in their shadow. The weight of guilt pressed against my chest, making it hard to breathe. The priest gestured to the cross. "Touch it." My hand hovered, shaking over the worn wood. Cold seeped into my fingers, but it was not unpleasant. The cracks in the wood seemed to pulse, almost alive. I pressed my palm against it, and a shiver ran through me, deep and unshakable. My vision blurred as the shadows around me thickened, stretching like tendrils. Whispers filled the chapel, voices from the past, voices I had tried to ignore. They accused me, mocked me, reminded me of every wrong I had done. My knees buckled, but I held on, gripping the cross like a lifeline. Suddenly, light pierced the darkness. A warm glow, gentle yet firm, wrapped around my body. The whispers faded, replaced by a voice inside me, clear, calm, loving. It was not the priest speaking, nor any human voice. It was him, Jesus. The light moved through me, burning away the fear, the shame, the anger. My chest expanded as if it had been weighed down by chains for decades. Tears blurred my vision, but they were not of sorrow, they were of release, of understanding, of surrender. I sank to my knees fully, pressing my forehead to the cracked cross. "I am sorry," I whispered, voice raw. "Forgive me." The warmth intensified, spreading through every limb, every thought. Memories of my past misdeeds did not disappear, but they no longer held power over me. I felt lighter, freer, as if the weight of an entire lifetime had been lifted. The basilica seemed to breathe with me, every candle flicker in sync with my pulse. I realized I had stepped into a new world, one where love and mercy outweighed fear and anger. The priest knelt beside me, placing a gentle hand on my shoulder. "You have faced your darkness," he said. "Now you must live in the light. But remember, the world outside will not understand your journey. You will be tested. Your faith will be challenged." I nodded, my fingers still resting on the cross. The truth of his words sank in. Leaving this place, returning to the streets, my family, my community, it would not be easy. Some would scorn me, others would question me, and I would have to stand firm, holding on to what I had found here. The warmth in my chest did not falter. It was a fire now, steady and sure, and guiding me through the uncertainty that awaited. As I rose, I noticed the chapel had changed. The cracked cross now seemed whole, the shadows softened, and the carvings on the walls appeared to glow faintly. I could feel grace in every surface, in every breath of air. Stepping back into the main basilica, I joined the congregation for morning prayers. I whispered along with the others, not out of habit, but with true understanding. Each word resonated deeply, echoing through my chest and soul. When communion was offered, I knelt without hesitation. The bread and wine were not just symbols, they were a promise I could finally grasp. I felt the presence of something greater than myself, a love that had been waiting patiently for me to arrive. The warmth surged again, filling me from toes to crown, and I realized the journey was only beginning. Outside, the city pulsed with life, indifferent yet alive. Vendors set up stalls, bells rang in distant churches. When sunlight poured over the cobblestones, I walked slowly, aware of every detail, every sound, every shadow. The priest's words echoed in my mind. The world outside would test me. I had faced my inner darkness, but what about the people who would not understand? What about those who would see my transformation as betrayal or foolishness? A crowd gathered near St. Peter's Square. Tourists, pilgrims, and locals moved around me in a swirl of color and noise. I could see the cross I had defiled in my youth, still standing, still sacred to others. A shiver ran down my spine. Could I face them, explain my journey, live as I now believed? Would they mock me, or worse, reject me entirely? I paused, the sun warm on my face, the city alive all around. The fire inside me was steady now, but doubt lingered at the edges. I had found light within, but would the world outside recognize it, or would it try to snuff it out? I took a deep breath, letting the warmth fill my lungs. And then I asked myself a question I had not dared to speak aloud until now. Could I truly live as a man changed, forgiven, and loved in a world that might never understand what I had found? I stepped out into St. Peter's Square, the morning sun casting long shadows over the cobblestones. My name is Karim, and I am 28. Every step felt heavier than the last, yet lighter too, as if the weight of guilt and fear I had carried for years had been lifted but left a new kind of responsibility pressing on my chest. The square was alive with people, their voices mingling with the distant tolling of bells. I could see pilgrims bowing, tourists snapping pictures, vendors calling out in bright voices, and through it all, I felt an unmistakable pulse of life, hope, and grace that I had never noticed before. I walked slowly toward the cross I had once defiled. It gleamed in the sunlight now, unbroken, serene. I knelt before it, fingertips brushing the smooth wood. The warmth returned, a gentle, steady fire in my chest, and I whispered a prayer. Not out of fear, not out of obligation, but out of truth. "Thank you," I said, tears filling my eyes. "Thank you for finding me when I was lost." Around me, the crowd moved, oblivious to the transformation happening within one man kneeling alone. I felt a hand on my shoulder, a gentle grounding presence. The priest from the chapel stood beside me, his eyes calm but intense. "You are ready now," he said. "The world will challenge you, Karim, but you have faced yourself. That is the first victory." I rose, the sunlight warming my face, the city bustling, and I felt it. The fire of faith steady, the clarity of purpose sharp. For the first time I understood what it meant to forgive and be forgiven. I had been blind to so much before, caught in anger, fear, and misunderstanding. Now, every heartbeat, every breath seemed to carry a new rhythm, one of love. Children ran past, their laughter ringing clear, and I smiled, seeing innocence I had once ignored. Tourists took photos of the basilica's grandeur, but I only noticed the quiet corners, the small details, the carvings in the marble, the way the sunlight reflected on stained glass. It was as if the world had shifted, showing me beauty I had never truly seen. I thought of my past life, the anger I had held, the crosses I had stomped on, the doubt I had clung to. I could remember every moment, every harsh word, every tear, but they no longer controlled me. They were memories, lessons, stepping stones to this moment. I realized then that transformation was not about erasing the past, but embracing it, learning, and walking forward with purpose. The priest gestured toward the crowd. "Live now as you have been found. Speak only through love. Let your actions be your testimony." I stepped forward, joining the flow of people, each step deliberate, each movement guided by the warmth within. Questions lingered. Would my family understand? Would my community accept the change? Would I falter when confronted by all doubts? But the warmth stayed, steady and strong. As I walked through the square, the bells rang louder, and I knew this was only the beginning. Could a man truly change fully and completely in a world that might never understand? Could faith be lived, not just believed? I kept walking, every step an answer, every breath a promise, and the fire inside me blazed like the morning sun, unshakable and eternal.